If you're not educated enough on how to buy a property the right way, then you need to educate yourself before you step into the real estate business, because you'll quickly go broke. If you know how to look for opportunities and solve problems, which is what we do, then the market doesn't matter at that
Yeah.
point. Honestly, I'm just a risk taker, and
Okay.
I've flipped over 2,000 houses, so I kind of know what I'm doing at this
Yeah.
point. It is not for a beginner. I've only lost money on 2 deals in my entire investing career, which
Love that.
equated to 100 grand.
Yeah.
But I've made millions of dollars as an investor in 20 something years that I've been doing this.
Noelle.
I am so excited to be here with Jamel Gibbs. This is actually the second time I've had a chance to talk to you, and you have grown and changed so much since the last time we talked. But you are just a wealth of knowledge, actual entrepreneur, really doing real estate, really doing deals, and more importantly, sharing all of this great information to people. Your YouTube channel now has over 140,000 subscribers. So what have you been up to, Jamel? Talk to me.
Hey, well, I'm just being Jamel, doing deals and just trying to help people along the way. That's
Yeah.
pretty much what I've been up to. How about
I
yourself?
love it. I love it. So let's talk about it. Really get into it. So you have a video called How to Buy Your First Rental Property, Even If You're Broke, over 2.6 million views. Tell my audience, talk about us. What are you teaching in that video? Because everybody loves it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that video has done really well for me and my channel. I'll
Yeah.
be honest, it was inspired by one of your videos. You have a video on YouTube that has a similar effect, similar approach to it. I
Yeah.
guess it would be a similar title, but what I did was I incorporated creative finance into it.
Talk to
And
me. What's creative finance? So you do deals, I do deals. We all, this is one of the things we talk about. There is abundance. There are so many real estate deals. One person cannot do all the deals. So kind of tell me some of the differences.
yeah,
Obviously, I know some ways because I was broke. I was living in my parents' basement when I started investing. But yours, like you said, goes more about the creative financing. So kind of talk
yeah.
about some of those things that you've done and that you're teaching on, because that is incredible.
Yeah, so that particular video, I focus on seller financing. There's a lot of different ways to do creative financing. You have subject to wraps, and you have land contracts, and you have seller financing in general. All of those are different forms of seller financing. But in this particular video that we're talking about, I taught how to use seller financing in order to be able to buy your first rental property. So,
Yeah.
uh, in essence, all I did was teach you exactly what seller financing was, how it will allow you to avoid going to a bank to get a loan. Instead, you use the seller as the bank. Start making monthly payments to the seller through a third party company so that both of you guys are protected. And
Love
then
it.
you can have a choice at that point to either keep the property or you can go ahead and resell it. And that's exactly what I taught in that video. I taught how to sell the property through something called a rent to own or a lease option.
Right.
So what that allows you to do is collect a large sum of money up front, collect money every month, and then collect back end profits as well. So it's an easy way for somebody to get involved in real estate investing without having to have a lot of money, without having to have that credit and things that you think you need in
Yeah.
order to invest in real estate. But what it
Yeah.
would allow you to do is get profitable relatively quickly if you
Mm.
put in the work, obviously,
Yeah.
and also create some passive income for yourself every single month.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So you're right. There's so many different types of seller financing type of situations. One of my favorites that I was able to amass my portfolio was subject to.
Hmm.
And obviously just kind of taking over payments and that whole system of taking over the payments, but getting the deed in my name. That was one of the big things that I wanted to make sure that I did. So with seller financing, kind of talk to the people that don't really know, there's so many benefits to
Yeah.
not having to go to the bank, to not having to show those tax returns, to not having to I show your income and your assets, and to get properties that already have equity in it. What are some of the things that you have found that really builds wealth with seller financing?
Well, the beautiful one of the beautiful parts about seller financing is, like you said, you don't have to go to the bank to get a
Yeah,
loan, right? So most people who want to get started in real estate, I don't want to say most people, but a good number of people who want to get started in real estate, they don't have a lot of money, may
yeah,
not have a lot of credit, right?
yeah,
So if you contact the seller and just so you guys can understand the difference between the different types of seller financing. If you're gonna go to seller financing route, the property needs to be free and clear. If
Mm,
you're gonna go to subject to route, it's okay for the property to have a mortgage. That's the difference between those types of seller financing opportunities, right? So you
right.
have one where the property needs to be free and clear. That's a
Yeah,
true seller finance deal. That's the original type of seller finance opportunity. Subject to means that the property has a mortgage on it and you're going to be taking over payments, right?
right.
So what we're talking about here is that free and clear opportunity. So that goes to show if you guys are looking for leads, if you're looking for deals, find properties that may not have a mortgage, but maybe they need a little bit of work, and you can offer an opportunity for the seller to get out of that type of distress so
Yeah.
that you can create a winning opportunity for both of you guys. But there's a lot of benefits to seller financing. So number one, you have choices, right? So
Okay,
you can
talk to me
choose.
because everybody loves choices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With subject to, you get the mortgage that you get. And one of the reasons why I'm always talking subject to is because there's a lot of low interest mortgage payments. People are past due. I can kind of work my magic with those people. So I haven't really done as many free and clear. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
taking over the payment. So this is completely different than what I'm usually doing. So
Absolutely. So usually with a seller finance opportunity, you have the ability to create your own interest rate. So a lot of these deals that I take over, I'm usually creating what's called equal monthly payments, which means 0% seller financing, right? So
okay.
if I go to a seller and I say, hey, I'm willing to make you an offer on this property, I can pay you what you're asking for, but in exchange for that, here's the monthly payment that I need, and I'll pay it off within X amount of, months. Usually I'll
Okay.
I'll negotiate through months versus years because months sounds better than years. It's a psychological thing.
Right,
But
right, right.
at the end of the day, I'm usually negotiating seller finance at a 0% interest rate. If we're adding interest to the mortgage, what's going to happen is I'm looking at whatever the market is and I'm trying to cut it in half. So if today's interest rate is, let's say, 7%, I'm trying to get it between 3 and 4%. So you really, unlike going to the bank where you can't negotiate your interest, you have to accept what the bank is willing to provide you.
Yeah.
With seller financing, you can literally create your own opportunity, your own interest rate just by negotiating directly with the seller. A lot of
Yeah.
times, again, if you talk about equal monthly payments versus, you know, um, what the seller wants every single month, you
Mhm.
can negotiate a 0% interest rate. So if I go to Zillow, for example, and I see that you know, a property can rent for 1,500 bucks. Just
Mhm.
throwing a number out there. I might go to the seller and say, hey, how about I offer you $800 a month in equal monthly installments for 10 years, and then I'll
Yeah,
pay
for
off the property.
120 months.
120 months,
Right.
exactly. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how you negotiate the seller finance types of opportunities. But other benefits that come along with it, you still get the same benefits as you would if you were to buy through a bank. So you get the tax benefits, the appreciating value, you get the depreciation, you get the cash flow, and all of these other things that come with buying a regular rental through a bank. The
Yeah,
difference is you're saving money by going directly to the seller.
I love it.
And you're getting the seller out of whatever situation because I'm
Right,
focused on distressed real estate. I'm getting
right,
the seller out of whatever situation they're
right.
in. So I'm helping the seller as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And this is again why I absolutely love real estate. And I tell people there's so many room for so many different people to do different things. And especially if you focus in on what you're good at, because I have been through foreclosure, I could easily talk to people that
That's
were
right.
in foreclosure and start taking over those payments. It just kind of just worked for me. And so how did you get into the seller financing, these free and clear properties? How did you get into that?
That's a really good question. So I started off in the business back in 2002 as a fix and flip investor,
Okay.
and a real estate broker at that time as well. I did really well my first 5 years in the business, made a whole lot of money. The problem was back in '07 and '08 when the market shifted, I had too much money out there and I couldn't sell a house.
Right.
So I ended up foreclosing on one of my houses and I ended up losing money on another house, but I didn't foreclose on it. I did pay the lender back the money.
Nice.
Um, So around that time, I had to start wholesaling, which is another form of real estate investing. And I had to find creative ways of doing deals. So I accidentally did my first lease option deal um, just by negotiating with the seller, creating an opportunity. You only
Yeah,
get what you ask for, right?
true.
So I didn't know what I was doing,
Right.
but I ended up negotiating a lease option deal, and that kind of led into seller finance opportunities and things like that. I actually knew a guy who owned like 120 seller finance deals back then.
Okay.
Um, and he was investing in notes. And that's
Okay.
kind of how I got introduced to the seller finance world.
I love it. I love it. So one of the things I also love about you, Jamel, is that you're like me in that sense that we want to tell people,
Yeah.
this is what I do, this is how I made money, this is what happened to me, and this is how I came out of it. So if someone wanted to learn or you have any courses or books, how would they find? I know you got that Deal Pro Academy. Talk to me
Yeah.
about what is Deal Pro Academy?
DealProAcademy.com. So on the Deal Pro Academy, I just created three brand new courses. I have a wholesaling mastery, I have a fix and flip mastery program, as well as a cash flow investing mastery.
I
And
love it.
along with that, I have this creative finance course and an auction course that comes along with it. I'm huge in my local area as an auction investor. I buy multiple at a
Oh,
time.
okay, so where are you again? Remind everybody.
I'm in North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. I'm
Okay,
from
what part of North
Brooklyn.
Carolina? North Carolina is a big state. Are you Fayetteville? You Charlotte? You Raleigh?
I'm
Where
in
you at?
Greensboro. I'm in Greensboro. I've been here
Greensboro.
for
Okay.
10 years. So I'm
All
originally
right.
from Brooklyn, as you know. I lived in Pennsylvania for 8 years, and now I'm here in Greensboro, North Carolina. So I do a ton of investing here and outside of this local area. I buy in the entire state pretty much. But as far as fixing and flipping, I'm within 30 to 45 minutes of where I live.
I
And I
love
buy
it.
multiple at a
Love
time. So if you got any
it.
deals, send it over.
Will
Um,
do, will do. Okay, so Deal Pro Academy, I love it. You have some great courses, and what I love about it too is it's wholesaling, fixing and flipping, and cash flow. So basically, what I was taught was deal compounding. So when I was
that's right.
broke, bankrupt, I did wholesaling because I had bad credit. Then once I got my money up, then I could do some fixing and flipping. So because obviously wholesaling, you make about $5,000 per deal, but with fixing and flipping, you're gonna make $65,000 per
Yep.
average on an average deal. And then obviously cash flow, rental properties, that's going to build your wealth because those properties are going up in value over time. So I absolutely love that education, that ladder of it. And then the auctions. So let's talk about the auctions because that's something I love. I do. I stop doing. I do. I stop doing. So talk to me about these auctions. Like, how can people really get into these auctions? Do you do the tax auctions? Talk to me about the auctions. What's your strategy?
I have multiple ways of buying through auctions, but ideally, the easiest way for someone to get started in the auction business is simply to do it online, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And the reason for that is because it's literally at the click of a button, right? So I don't necessarily go downtown anymore. Every single auction property I buy, in fact, the last 20 or so that I bought have been right online. You can, when it comes to auction properties, you really want to be careful. You want to know your numbers before you go in. So
Yeah.
you want to know your comps. You want to know how much work a property needs. And the caveat to that is you can't get into these properties in advance. So you got to
Right.
really know how to estimate your repairs. I just
Yeah.
released a video, if you don't, shameless plug. I just released a video yesterday on how I actually estimate repairs
All right. Put a
on
link to that one.
yeah. So if honestly, if you just follow the formula that I'm talking about in that video, you'll
Yeah.
get a rough idea. It's not going to be 100% accurate.
Right.
I'll just give you an example. I'm flipping a house right now. We're $20,000 over budget, right?
Okay.
But I'm still gonna make like 80 to 100 grand on the house. So for me, there was enough breathing room in it to where I can actually that twenty thousand
Right.
dollars didn't mean anything, right? The reason why we're over budget is because the house had a foundation issue that was unforeseeable unless you walked into the property. And
Right.
again, with these auction deals, they don't
Yeah.
allow you to walk in. So you got to know your numbers or get
Yeah.
relatively close to it before you actually walk in. I'm
Yeah.
also buying these houses at 30 to 40 cents on a dollar.
Right.
So I'm buying them low enough and
Yeah.
paying cash for them,
Yeah.
and the price that I'm picking them up at is it's going to allow me to have a lot of breathing room in a
Yeah.
property. So it doesn't matter if I pay a little bit more than what I should, or if
Okay.
the budget is a little higher than what it should be. I'm still going
Right.
to make a profit on these
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing with auctions. That's why I said you made a great point that we got to delve into just a little bit more. Because I cannot see inside of the property, I just have never been able to really go
Yeah,
all in at that being my strategy. Now, the auctions where it's just tax liens, and I know I'm just
those are
gonna get
different.
my money, you know what I'm saying? 6 months, I'm getting 6% or
Yeah,
whatever, so really passive, no risk, really probably not getting the house. I had never ever, not even one time, got the house.
yeah.
Because they always redeem it during the redemption period. So the auctions, because that's the thing. So talk, like, how did you get into like, okay, I can deal with this level of risk? Because to me, that was just like, man, I
Yeah.
got it. I rather just do my numbers. Like I'm more of a numbers person
Understood.
than an innovation person. So how'd you
Yeah.
get into that and say, you know what, it's worth the risk?
Honestly, I'm just a risk taker. And
Okay.
I've flipped over 2,000 houses, so I kind of know what I'm doing at this
Yeah.
point. It is not for a beginner. I will say that because as a beginner, especially getting into the rehabbing portion of the business, be
Right.
very, very careful if you can't walk into a house. Do a few rehabs before get your numbers down as a
I,
rehabber before you try to do these types of deals sight unseen.
I
These
agree.
sight
Or have a
unseen
good
deals
mentor like yourself or someone that really
have
knows.
somebody to show you how to do it. That's probably the best way to do it because if not, you're gonna, my first one that I've ever done sight unseen, I lost $80,000 on, right? And that's a lot to say because I've only lost money on two deals in my entire investing career,
Love
which
that.
equated to 100 grand.
Yeah,
But I've
yeah,
made millions of dollars as an investor in 20 something years that I've been doing this.
yeah.
So truth be told, I did lose money on that first one, and it was because I paid. It was a 7,000 square foot home. I paid $65,000 for it. I thought it was a steal. When I
Yeah.
walked into the house, it needed more work than I anticipated.
Okay.
What killed me on that was the monthly payments. I was paying like $4,000 a month for the property, and I just
Right.
couldn't get ahead. Every time I try to rehab something, something else happened. So I ended up selling it at a loss.
Yeah.
Um, and I wrote the interest payments off of my taxes. So was it
There we
really a
go.
loss? Probably not,
Right.
but
So
it
let's
but
talk
it was a
about that
loss.
because there's just so many benefits to real estate investing. Not
Yeah.
only do you have obviously cash flow, people know about, you buying property with lots of equity. Obviously, you have appreciation, the property going up in value over time. But I think another really big one that people miss out on is all of the tax write-offs, the
Yep.
writing off all the expenses, all of the rehab, all of the this, plus the depreciation. So what is it that kind of got you into to real estate as like your thing? I know that we all have our own origin stories. Some of
Yeah.
us all different type of hustles, and then we realize this was the one for us. Or we always just love real estate. I know you started off a broker, but how did you get into real estate and add more importantly, as an investor in real estate?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So back in 2000, so I graduated high school in 99. I didn't go to college. I was offered a position as a cold caller on Wall Street. This is in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I worked at this company to become a broker, uh, which took me about a little over a year. So back in 2001, 9/11 ish, or 2 weeks before that, I became a broker at this company on Wall Street. Uh, the planes hit the towers. I was down there that day. I experienced the whole thing. The company went out of business because everybody was pulling their investments out of the company, and I had to find something else to do. So I had a friend who was in real estate in Brooklyn. He introduced me to the real estate business, and that's how I got started.
Okay.
Within 2 weeks after the 9/11 era, I
Yeah.
started my investment in brokering journey, and
Yeah.
then just kind of took it from there. I made a lot of money. So again, I was 21 when I started.
Yeah.
The time I was 25, I was pretty well off.
Yeah.
Um, but I wasn't spending money. It's the best way to explain this. I wasn't money savvy.
Yeah.
So I would make a lot of money, but I was spending a lot of
And a
money.
lot of money.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
broke. I made a million. I had a $1 million worth of real estate by the time I was 25.
You're a
Uh,
millionaire. Yeah.
27, I was broke.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
And
had
it's
to
funny
make
because
it
I talk about millionaire because there's three different ways a person could be a millionaire. Obviously, you can have a
cash
million
millionaire. Yep.
asset, you could earn $1 million a year, or you
Yep.
could have $1 million in cash. And the first way that I became a millionaire was the same way that you did with assets, with
Real
real
estate
estate.
asset. Right.
It's in there. So it's funny that you use that equity wisely. So one of the things that I saw that you are teaching now, like I said, you have an amazing YouTube channel, you got a lot of followers on Instagram and things like that. One of the videos you've been talking about, or the topic you've been talking about now that I absolutely love, is kind of pulling out some of that equity through a
Yeah.
HELOC and then
Yeah.
getting more property. So talk about how you kind of came into that strategy, how that works, so people understand the power of this.
Yeah. So what I like about HELOCs, and just to give credit, I have a couple of friends that you may have seen on my channel as well. I really got educated on HELOCs by just having longer conversations with them and kind of surrounding myself with them.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about HELOCs is you can take the equity out of your property, use the equity, pay the equity back off, use the equity, pay it back off. It's not like a refinance where you're pulling out
Uh,
all of the money and changing the rate on a property. You can keep your initial note on the
yep,
property and just simply use the HELOC, and it's a separate entity. Now I can use my equity in order to get richer
yep,
while keeping my initial note in place. It's not affecting this at all. So if you got a property back in like 2015 and your interest rate is, let's say, 3.5% interest, where today's is like what, 7 to 8%,
yeah,
something crazy. I think I just refinanced the house yeah, a month ago, a brand new Airbnb that we have. My interest rate is like close to 8%.
yeah, yeah,
Um, if I would have bought that same property back then, not only would I have paid less for the property, but my interest rate would reflect the market from back then.
right.
I can use the HELOC money in order to be able to not affect the interest rate that I have right now, but use that in order to make money and then pay it off. And it's kind of like a credit card, right? So you use it, it's like a revolving line of credit where you can use it, you can pay it off, you can use it, you can pay it off. What I would do with the HELOC money is simply flip. I wouldn't necessarily let that money sit for a long period of time. You want turnaround, and then you refinance the money back out of the next property and you keep doing the same thing. That's how you can build wealth today. So
Yep.
it's probably a lot of words right there,
No,
but to give you
it's
an
amazing. And
idea.
again, very educational. And I think people hear that you can use real estate to build wealth, but they're not really understanding how you can tap into that equity and how that appreciation affects that thing too. And the more the
That's
property is
right.
going to value, the more equity you have, the more equity you can pull out and get even more real estate. And how, again, success begets success. So no,
Yeah.
I love
So, and one more thing with that, when it comes to HELOCs, a lot of people use HELOCs to do foolish things, right? So they may pull out, money, pull out equity from their property, and then
it.
what they'll do with the equity is they're going to fix the property up, right? You're not getting that money back, right?
Right.
So you're simply paying money, paying more than what you were initially paying on your mortgage, uh, on the HELOC,
Right.
and you lock that equity up into something that's not going to bring you more money. So rather than doing that, you can create more income by simply using the HELOC to buy more real estate or more
Yeah.
assets that's going to bring more cash flow to you and keep
Right.
freeing that money up.
Yeah.
To me, that's the best way to use a HELOC.
I agree. I agree. And then another point to that is the interest rates on HELOCs are definitely lower than, even some
It
business
is.
cards and business lines of credits and things like that. And like you said, you use it and then as you pay it, it frees it back up and you really can just keep reusing that HELOC over and over again, at
That's
least
right.
usually 10 years at least minimum. So okay, I absolutely love it. Again, Deal Pro Academy.com. You can go to use /Noelle so that Jamel knows that Noelle sent you. You have some amazing education. So one last question before we go, because again, I love the
What's up?
diversity of thought. I love that there's so many of us out here really showing what we're doing, really being entrepreneurs, really being in this real estate game, and more importantly, helping our community with this information. So I'm a big believer in learn, do, teach. So on your channel, I saw there was a video where I had made about stop buying houses and you had kind of gave your reaction. And I was like, yes, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because there's so many different opinions and that is so welcome to me. So I had made a video at the time, interest rates again, 8%. And I was like, don't buy the houses the traditional way. And you kind of had some opinions. So let's talk about that because I really still have not been buying houses the traditional way because
Mm-hmm.
the interest rates are so high. I have
Mm-hmm.
been doing like what you just said a second ago, targeting people that got those mortgages in 2014 and 2015 because they have those really low interest rates and I can just take over their mortgage payments. But obviously, you are still buying houses and you just said you just closed on one, you're doing an Airbnb. So, what is your take on it for those who have not seen this video with Jamel's thoughts on Noelle's opinion?
Yeah, you should actually link that. I was actually bigging you up in that video. I thought what you were talking about was spot on.
Yeah,
Um, but as far as buying houses at, the traditional interest rate,
yeah,
you were absolutely right.
yeah.
I think that when you're purchasing real estate, though, the way that I buy distressed real estate. So whether it's financially or physically distressed, same way you buy it, right?
Right,
So we're buying it at a discount.
right.
If you know upfront when you're working your numbers, if
Mhm.
you know that the property is not going to cash flow for you, because you want to look at what's the profitability margin on the property before you actually buy it. So can I make a profit if I flip it? Can I make
Right.
a profit if I keep it? Will it cash flow? Right.
Yeah,
If you're looking at the numbers, to me, the interest rate doesn't matter at that point.
right,
If if I if I go into a property and I know I'm going to make 2,500 bucks a month through
yeah,
Airbnb, I'm buying that property all day long.
right,
Right.
right.
If I look at a property and I see that I'm going to be in a negative up front, then I'm going to be careful.
Well,
To
let's
me, the
talk about
interest.
that for a second because there are people that like really came against me. You're right. You did kind of agree with me on some of the points, but some people have really came and was like, no. And here's their point. And I have to, that's why I kind of agree with it too.
Mm-hmm,
In our community, okay, I'm just going to talk about African American community.
mm-hmm,
We obviously are behind in home ownership, okay? And so you have a person, let's just say they're 25 years old. They're getting all these messages from people saying, "Do not buy a house. Do not buy a house."
mm-hmm.
And I kind of don't think that's true for our community because we have to start buying real estate. That's part of how we're going to gain power. You know what I mean? Without getting into anything political or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. But you have to be an owner. You can't be beholden to landlords all the time and actually hold power. So there is this conflict or this kind of argument against like, yeah, no matter what the interest rate is, some groups we got to keep buying houses. What do you think
If
about
you, yeah, if you're not educated enough on
that?
how to, I think that education plays a major part in this, right? So
Talk about it. Yes.
if you're not educated enough on how to buy a property the
Right.
right way,
Yeah.
then you need to educate yourself before you step into the real estate business because you'll quickly go broke,
Yeah.
right? If you know that you're buying opportunities, so that's the
Mm,
difference. So Noelle and I, we buy opportunities. We don't just buy any house. We have to know that there's opportunity in the property. If
right.
you're smart enough to understand, or if you have somebody like Noelle and I show you how to do this,
Yeah.
then buying the opportunity will prevent you to have to worry about the market, right?
Right.
So I don't necessarily worry about market conditions because I'm always buying at a
Right.
discount, right? I'm
Right.
always getting a deal. So
Right.
sometimes I may pay market value for a house,
Yeah.
right? But again, I'm creating an opportunity where I know, going back to the seller finance situation, I'm creating a 0% interest. To me, I can pay market value if I'm paying, if
That's
I'm
true.
not paying any interest on the house, it's still
Right.
going to cash flow,
Right.
right? So if you understand how
And with the
to,
appreciation, it's going to go up in value, and you're
it's going to
not
go up in value
trying to hedge
5% per year
inflation.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you know how to look for opportunities and solve problems, which is what we do, then the market doesn't matter at that
Yeah.
point, right?
Right.
What matters more than anything is just educating yourself on how to structure deals, how to put stuff together that's going to create winning opportunities for you. And you're not trying to take advantage of sellers, right? So
Right.
what you're doing is you're creating opportunities that's going to allow the seller to get out of the problem that we just spoke about and allow you the opportunity to profit. So you're profiting from problems. That's what you're doing,
Well, let's
right?
talk about that point because somebody said this to me, and I had to kind of concede to this point. They said, "Okay, we understand that in the Black community that there's a higher rate of foreclosure. Okay,
Mhm.
but we buy foreclosures.
Well, there's a reason for that too, but we
Yeah,
could talk
yeah,
about that if you want.
correct. We can talk about that. Right. And again, a lot of it is you don't know what you don't know. If this
Right.
information was hidden from you, if there were laws designed against you, of
Yep.
course, then you're going to be behind the eight ball. So you're right about that part. But the argument was, am I saying that? Because this is kind of what they were saying to me. Am I saying that just so I could then buy their foreclosures? And I was trying to explain what you
Mm,
just said. Like, well, we're really creating win-win situations because the truth of the matter is you have to live somewhere. We
right.
all have to live somewhere, whether it's a tiny home, a mobile home, but we're not going to be living in an app. We're not going to be living in a computer. So at some point, we have to think about that, where we're going to live and where we're paying to live. So even if you buy a house at market value and at a market value rate, the danger of you going into foreclosure is always going to exist. The same like when you're renting to get evicted.
Exactly.
If we're a stronger community and there is the Jamel Gibbs and there's the Noelle Randalls and there's the this person and that person where you don't actually even have to go into foreclosure.
That's
I
right.
think we're actually still pushing the community forward. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're absolutely pushing the community forward. Think about it like this. So not only so in my case, right?
Yeah.
So when I buy a house, a lot of times if I'm negotiating with the seller, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not in the business of convincing grown people on what to do with their time, with their money, with anything, right? I'm in the business of helping
Oh,
people,
New York.
right? Right. So I'm not
I ain't in the business of that, man.
yeah, I'm in the business of helping people at the end of
Right.
the day, right? So I'm not trying to convince you out of your property. If you're
Right.
going into foreclosure, you're going to lose the house to the bank, or
Right.
you can sell it to me and make a little bit of money,
Right.
or
At least fix your
prevent.
credit or something. Like there's going to be some benefit, right?
Right.
Versus
There's going to be a
every.
benefit to working with me.
Yeah.
So, and then in addition to that, I'm providing additional services to help you get housing somewhere else. So again,
Right.
we're in the business of helping people. We're not trying to steal any properties from anybody. Look, if I don't buy it, somebody else is going to pay less at the end of
Right.
the day. Right.
Right.
So you might as well sell it to me.
Mine as well. That's what I tell people too. I'm like, you rather give the bank back the down payment, all the payments you've made, or worst case scenario, you're risking me paying the mortgage. Those are some of the pitches that, I'm explaining to people. So I absolutely love this. Like I said, you are a wealth of knowledge. Again, Deal Pro Academy / Noelle. You need to get one of those courses. I know they're absolutely amazing. And again, it is an amazing strategy. So before we go, anything else you want to say, Jamel?
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. The way you buy properties,
Yeah.
subject to,
Yeah.
right? To me, that is the epitome of helping people, right? So, how are you helping somebody? You're preventing them from going to foreclosure, taking over their payments. Although you're getting ownership of the property, this person can have an opportunity to buy another house
Right.
relatively quickly, right? So, I
Right.
just wanted to add that to that because
Yeah,
that's
I
super
appreciate
important.
that. I explained that to them. Like, you go into foreclosure, you're 4 years, like
Yeah,
even
yeah, you
FHA
can prevent
now. I'm
that,
like,
right?
10
So,
years on your credit report. Like, it's not fun. I've been there. That's not what you want.
I have as well. Trust me. I've been bankrupt. I've been in foreclosure before because of the '08 crisis, and I had to get myself out of it. But we still made money over the years
Yep,
because again, if I stress this, if I haven't done it already, we're in the business of helping people solve problems. If you can solve problems, you'll always make money at
that's
the end of the
right.
day.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jamel. This has been amazing. Again, Deal Pro Academy, and I'll put the links in the bio.